Hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today I will be continuing with episode 27, part 2 of the common sense answers. So I'll just get straight into it. Number 8. What was the subject's mental, spiritual background status at this point of time in her life when each assessment were assessed? In July 2009, at that point of time, I was actively involved in my local church. I was actively and physically active, doing walking, early hours, power walking, or the gym, and I did that for like 3 to 5 days a week. I was also a single parent of to 3 children at this time, and I had a full-time occupation. So I didn't really have much time for anything else. I was basically very much involved in my home life and just bringing up my family and work. Now, at the time of the mental health assessment report in December 2015, the second report, by this time things had deteriorated for me as far as privacy, my privacy at this time, the hostility. Some days were worse than others, but it has never really stopped, and they were at times hostile, so it kind of sort of made me even be more confined in my circumstance as far as the freedom of just being able to just go anywhere. But I still was into my exercise when I could do it. But yeah, I'd gone on a downhill spiral. It was a situation, once you're being micromanaged or subject to human trafficking by force, you aren't, at the time eventually happens when you don't really have control of your circumstance. And the only thing that you do have in control is the decision that you make while you're actually going through it. So at this time, I believe my mindset spiritually was good. I was stressed out because, obviously because of the tragic, it was quite a bit of a tragic thing for me, with, getting unfairly dismissed from my job. And it wasn't until afterwards, after the fact, mental anguish took place. But regardless of how I felt emotionally at this time, I continued on, persevering and just going through it and dealing with situations the best way I knew how at the time. So report 2 and the assessment 3 sort of, quite similar at this time. I can confirm I wasn't, even though I was bombarded and really going through a very difficult time, because I had no control of my situation. I believe I still, was still in a very clear mindset, frustrated and anguish, of what I was going through at the time, because I couldn't do anything about it. It was way out of my control. But yeah, I was fine until they actually did what they did, where they used the Mental Health Act unlawfully. Number 9. What are the vital key aspects that must be taken into consideration about the subject before making a decision? So this question is basically based around when you're looking at the legal documentations, if it was your profile or somebody else's profile, if you're the investigator. or if it's your own profile. So number one, check the laws to make sure that those in public office have kept into the confinement of their fiduciary duty and contract. Number two, check the contract for breaches. Number three, merits for fraud, if any. Number four, key suspects and predators. It's a case by case basis. So if there's, anything criminal involved, you need to find out, who were involved in the environment of the situation for the actual victim or subject. Number five, sufficient medical evidence to support the assessment and report. In this case, we're talking about medical records. So, you want to be satisfied that the evidence and that the evidence on the medical side supports the reasoning for the actual report written. So, and a tip for this, if you're at work in a prominent position, you're new, you have no experience, you're just new on board, or you're learning as you go, if you're in doubt, I suggest you double check and ask somebody senior. What I have also found, another a tip is that I have found people from overseas have come here and come into my country and have gotten their degree or whatever their license is in another country, and then they've come here and they've gone by the laws in their country. Well, the laws in every country is different. So if you're coming from overseas to a new country, it pays to actually check, make sure your license falls in the legal side of the country that you're in, or you'll be using your license, because it makes a massive difference. Because the misuse of the Mental Health Act is a criminal offence in this country. So that's, a tip for everyone. Just because somebody says that they're a doctor does not mean that they're actually specialised for whatever reason you're seeing them for, because everyone's got different license for different occupation. Here's just a prime example. I've done a marriage celebrant license as a registrar. And I've also had license for different jurisdiction, like, the criminal, for example, the same name, but completely different power of authority and different legislation to back up the authorization of the actual job. So I'm just using that as an example. So it pays to check all that information. Number 10, what type of breaches relates to these assessments and report, and how many can you detect? Well, there's quite a lot in here, and so I've just picked out the obvious and the basics, but there was actually quite a lot. But there was definitely a privacy breaches in the reports, breach of fiduciary duty, breach of contract, breach of trust, and a breach of good faith. There was also suspicion and unlawful investigations. There was definitely evidence of that. And then there was merits of suspicion of cyberbullying and a scam. And then there was merits of fraud, of wrong information entered. Now that one, there's a difficult one. I only knew because it's mine and I knew straight away. But if you're looking at somebody else's report or legal documentation, it takes a lot of skill to actually make sure you've made the right decision, because all you have to go with is the actual evidence in front of you. Okay, so now I will just quickly, I've selected a few quotes from the actual report in 2009. So I will just quickly elaborate on a few of the quotes because I thought it was quite relevant and important to explain, and also as an example, because this is my report and I know what it should be, and I can verify it to be true or not. So first of all, when I looked at the report, I could tell straight away that somebody had updated it. On the date on the report, it said last updated on the 18th of July 2007. Okay, this like, huh? What's that for? That got me like, hey, who's entered that? Who's gone into you know, my medical records and entered that? Because I have had nothing to do with the mental health services my whole life until the actual appointment on the 4th of February 2016. So I was like, what, you know, so that's something to look up. You know, usually, you know, if someone's pretty thorough investigating, they want to find out who updated it last and why and what was, you know, being entered at this time. So that sort of like got me like, I haven't had anything to do with mental health services in 2007. So, you know, that was a suspicion. So the other thing was the information also indicated in the report in 2009 that I was in financial hardship. I can say that was not true. I can say, yes, I had my struggles financially like everybody else when you're a single parent, you know, to 3 children and all the expenses and all the rest of it that goes with living costs. Yes, it was difficult, but I wouldn't class myself as someone like in dire strait financially, because by this time I had gotten myself out of debt from old debts from my old relationship, and I was basically in a good space because I bought a car, and then when I needed another car, I bought another new car, and I did that a few times where I just paid off another car when I needed another car to update. And I was just paying regular bills with everyone else, but things started getting really hard and difficult for me when I realized my financial situation. Somebody had, you know, I had reason of belief that somebody had actually got hold of my financial situation or my financial details and was misusing it, you know, or using it to track me. I felt like someone was interfering. That was why I made those complaints. The complaints that I actually lodged in 2010 clearly indicates that I'd made complaints about, you know, wrongful activities on my bank account details. And yeah, so it was happening in every area of my life. So this is what was happening at this time. But I was upset when it was just the wording of how it was put on the actual report that kind of sort of got me, you know, I was not happy about it because of the indication of what the actual report was implying. So the next one was number C. It has the address of where I was living at that time. That information was correct. This information also said that I had PTSD, indicating of being emotionally distressed and emotionally unstable. I wasn't happy about this information because, you know, at the time I had complained about the gossip and the criminal harassment and, you know, what was happening to me in the office. I wasn't happy about it. And then in fact, when the manager actually approached me, I actually got mad, but I can actually prove that I wasn't, you know, emotionally distressed or emotionally unstable. However, there were times I did take sleeping pills because I was under tremendous stress, and sometimes I was so burnt out and I lacked sleep because I had so much on my plate, you know, early hours in the morning, going work, and when you're a parent, you go home, you work again, and so you're always on the go, and sometimes, you know, you just get burnt out, and I did find myself in that situation, and the doctor prescribed me some sleeping pills so I could sleep. So I did do that, but I didn't rely on it. I only took it when I needed it. The other thing they had on the actual report was that I can prove about the emotional state of mind. Even though the surveillance, you know, there's a lot of negative in regards to the surveillance and in regards to the misuse of you know, the technology, there's a lot of disadvantages. There's also advantages because it's really easy for me to prove that I wasn't, you know, emotionally or mentally unstable at this time. So I was pretty much quite a confident person. And some people found that quite intimidating, even though I minded my own business and it's them in my space, I'm not in theirs. So the problem lays with them. So, okay, the other thing was the dates of the children, my children's birth, age at this time wasn't exactly accurate. So that's not hard to, you know, find out their true date, age at this time. If I did a voluntary work, I managed a hip hop group at this time. I basically went on board with this group from at the end of 2008, but by 2009 I was fully involved. So that was something that took up my time too at this time. And I was also very much involved in public activities in the church, meetings and that at this time. Also, this report also revealed that I had an alias name. I was upset about that because, like, hey, it was my employer who referred me to this premeditated appointment, and yet they couldn't get it right. That I had a name change, and that's all in my records. But yeah, this report does reveal I do have an alias. So if you're investigating, that's just something to indicate you need to look, the person's looking for is known by another name. What else was I doing? Okay, the other one is EAP. So I was seeing a paid sessions. It was, and it was done through the union at this time. And I was seeing a counsellor, and I was seeing her, I think, roughly on and about from 2003, 2004 onwards, in regards to the workplace bullying. Now, on this report, it had the words, and I quote, Victor's wife is mentioned. So this is another reason why I had put this report in with the protected disclosure in 2017. At this time I was having problems, personal problems, everyone has problems, but this person, this report is referring to as Victor's wife, as somebody that I was very, very close to at this time, and I wouldn't consider them as just a public, people, in public working, belonging in the church, as just another public member. This person was somebody I was very, very, very close to at this time, over the years. But I'd used this report also, plus I attached a few letters, because I had actually put in 2 separate applications at this time of protected disclosure because I wanted the breaches to be investigated. But at this time, the weight of the evidence was actually on the cyberbullying at work, because of the abuse that I was, the working condition and abuse that I was working under at this time, plus the car accident that I believe was all linked to everything that I was going through. In fact, looking back now, it was very, very, very hostile, and I'm actually very lucky to even talk about it today. But that was at that time, and so I just sort of elaborate about, this was in that protected disclosure, this actual report in July 2009. But I'd say, like I said, it was, the issue that I was having was that I had reason of belief that someone was passing on my activities at work to my people in my private life. So that was huge, and that went back as far as when I first started detecting it was in 2006, slowly, but it just gradually got worse and worse. So family history, this is the other bit that I found really upsetting in the report. It said they've written on the report, and this report is my report, nobody else's in my family's. This is my report. So I was very upset when I read this part. It said that of medical. They put the word psychiatric, substance abuse, suicide, or incarnation of grandparents. So I don't know what is incarnation of grandparents is, because I don't have grandparents. I didn't have grandparents at this time. And I wasn't on any substance abuse, whether it be alcohol or drugs. I wasn't, I didn't have that problem either. And I wasn't doing anything like that at this time or leading up to it. It also said, the only thing that when I saw suicide, I thought, okay, the first thing I thought was they've dug up my medical records, because yes, I can confirm I did try to commit suicide, and this is like rewinding back when my youngest son was like 3 years old, because of the situation surrounding that circumstance at that time. I did try to commit suicide, but you're looking at a gap of almost 20 years roughly, between 18, almost 20 years from the time that it actually happened, leading up to this report being written. So I was really upset, but from that time on to, I wasn't in any state of mind, sort of suicide for, and I wasn't involved in any family violence, surrounding circumstance at that time. But the fact that they'd put suicide in the way the report read, it didn't look good. So I felt it was misleading, and it was creating evidence that weren't true. And basically that's what the report read. There were other factors that I've already mentioned in another video about the report that really upset me. So the report actually proved that there was definite 100% unlawful investigations, because there are other stuff, like I already mentioned in this report, I had to disclose to anybody. And here's these women that I had a session with for like 30 to 45 minutes, never met them in my life or never seen them again, and then they write this full detailed fraudulent information on my records. So personal opinion and proven facts, this is my opinion. Profile indicates that the subject has been subject to a scam or fraud is ahead. Investigations must take place in all area of the subject's personal profile. It is difficult to find fresh evidence that is not contaminated when the matter is historical, which is very true, especially in cyberbullying or cyber attacks. The reason for this is because everyone is cyberbullying and cyber attack. Anyone who's been through the kind I've been through, everyone's in on it. Some start off as a joke. Some, start off with no intentions of doing anything criminal, but then it backfires. Or somebody in their family gets into trouble, and then they're like stuck in the middle, trying to protect their own family and, doing the right thing and stuff like this. So this is what has happened historically, and this is the danger of privacy breaches, because it gets lots of innocent people involved with no intentions of going as far as they do when they do get into trouble. Some get in so deep it's they can't get out of it, and then they end up on the wrong side of the fence. So that's why breaches are so different, are so huge, because it pulls in lures and sucks in real innocent civilians, and then they find out later on it wasn't even true. So there you go. Okay, however, experts with extensive skill and knowledge in this particular field will be able to uncover the unknown or the buried evidence. 11. Who and what company, organisation, government agency retains your personal profile? So I've written a list here: power company, insurance company, medical records, police, IPCA, which is Independent Police Code of Conduct, the Commissioner, courts in all jurisdictions, schools, banks, telecommunications, and this is to do with your phone, or anything, technology, and all the employers that you've worked for. So they all retain your personal profile historically. 12, who is liable for any damages or criminal offences that may occur whilst you are a client too. 1, government agency. 2, company and organisation. Public sectors agencies, company and organisations are liable for any wrongdoing that occurs to anyone whilst they are under their care as a client or an employee. And that's even like historically if anything goes wrong. As far as criminal jurisdiction is concerned, criminal is criminal, and there's no watering down with that if the evidence points to foul play or something that's quite serious. Okay, what can I do if I have an English barrier or illiterate? 1, get a power of attorney. Get someone you know and trust to speak on your behalf. So for those who don't know what illiterate mean, it means when you can't read or write. So that's what you should do. But be cautious with whom you trust, because you could be worse off. So I thought I'd advise you on that. People change and you don't want to be worse off than when you started. Number 14, what is a wrongdoing and how many can you detect in the report and assessment? A wrongdoing is a behaviour or an action that is wrong. It's something that is blameworthy, evil, or a violation of rights and laws. For example, suspicions it's a natural suspicion, some call it gut feeling, others call it, my intuition. But it may seem vague, a vague notion, but you are adamant that it happened, or it did exist, or it occurred, or it is happening. So sometimes it takes an experience, it takes time to be absolutely sure that what you your belief is what it is. So basically you're talking about health and safety activities. They're actually really serious health and safety, cyberbullying, indirect crimes, premeditating. It's actually serious health and safety activities. And it is criminal. Especially if it's causing another human emotional harm, abuse, hostile, or a hostile set of circumstance. So that is what a wrongdoing is. And just another tip on that, the legislation that will support these kind of allegations when you have a suspicion of wrongdoings in a company or wherever wherever the problem is, whether it be in public or whatever, you need evidence to support your facts. So, so you got to use common sense and do what you got to do to get evidence for take to the police. What I was going to say was, I almost slipped my mind, was it is called the protected disclosure legislation. So that's what you need to look up for and read up about that. And that sort of, when you're lodging complaints, you can lodge those complaints under, against a company or an organisation under that system. Okay. Okay, and number 15, does the reports and assessment articulates reasonable sufficient legal action, and if so, which jurisdiction? Does it justify credibility for a lawsuit? Yes, definitely. The subject's case has sufficient merits for a civil or a criminal case. The seriousness of the case falls in the category of indictable offences. That's just another word of real serious crimes. So the invasion of privacy is only, this is just a, just a common sense little scenario really. Invasion of privacy is only possible if the opposition has committed some sort of espionage, which is really easy to do today, because once your privacy is gone, they just need to just text and premeditate. So if you're a really, really, really private person, like I can say that no one had, I'm pretty private. I have been for years, by choice, and because it was just, the circumstance and the environment that I was subject to at the time in the culture. Yeah. So if all of a sudden you feel like you've lost your privacy, or you feel like isolated and like, where's everyone? It's probably because you've been subject to something, and there's probably been times where you've had suspicion and you've ignored it, or then all of a sudden something's come up and you don't know, it just happens. So that's what breaches do. If you're not, if you don't know what a breach is, and if you don't act. But in some cases, I have seen judges award the plaintiff and the victim, or plaintiff or the victim, with compensation, and still refer the file to the criminal jurisdiction and charge the defendants for the breaches. Like in the court cases I used to take, some judges, they don't play games with breaches, and they do expect those who holds those authority, they do expect them to know better. Basically, there's no excuse for breaking the law. Plus it's very hypocritical if they do, but the odd time people do, and they can just take advantage of someone, and it's easy to get away with it if they can. But it is law to compensate victims in serious wrongdoing of anyone in public office, is in legislation. But you'd need a lawyer if you haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. But basically, I just wanted to sort of like speak in a language where, translate these things in a language where you can understand what the laws are for, and just, like the steps you can do to try and protect yourself legally before you can't. Or some people have left it too late, and then they've woken up like, what happened here, what happened there, or they've made the wrong decision, and then find out later on that they've made the wrong decision, or have made a decision they never intended on doing. So I will leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I will continue on with some more episodes. I've got quite a few more ideas to put together. As you can appreciate, these videos, they do take a lot of time to do, because I need to think about what my theme is, or the topic, and then I've got to research and then put everything together, and then I've got to edit and do the thumbnails. So there's a lot of work involved. So if you do like my videos, just subscribe and press like, and then hopefully in the future I'll do some live streaming, and I'll keep you update in regards to other new things that are coming up. So I'm just taking one day at a time. But at this stage, I've just sort of like feel like this is something I wanted to do to help those in the public. At least even knowledge is power, and it's better that you know than you don't know. And then the responsibility really falls on you with whatever you decide to do if you find yourself in this situation. Because I've had the advantage because I already knew I've been blessed in so many ways. So I just thought, you know, I would dedicate this channel to help anybody who's known someone, or even someone who's been through human trafficking. But once you're out of it, you're actually dealing with after the fact crimes in some cases. Yeah, but it's, I mean, even if you haven't gone through it, like I said, these things, they just creep up on you. They happen very subtle. Breaches are subtle. Yeah, and it's very serious. So it's best that you know as much as you can and hear it from someone who's gone through it themselves. And it's a way of you getting to know me as time go on. So I'll leave it at that, and I will see you in my next video.